It is now my pleasure to welcome Reverend Judith Elia. Reverend Judith Elia began dreaming about dolphins and experiencing their wisdom in the 1980s. With a group of friends, she consciously connected with a pod of dolphins in Key West. And years later, she befriended a super pod of dolphins in the wild in Bimini. After 30 years as a minister of diverse congregations, Reverend Elia recently retired as the senior minister of Unity of Port Richey. She's spending 2 months this summer serving the Tent of Nations and the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability in Bethlehem, occupied Palestine. She'll be traveling to the eco-villages and Dharma centers along the way, visiting Sufi, Buddhist, Jewish, Baha'i, and Christian, Israeli, and Palestinian friends along the way. Reverend Judith Elia, we welcome you today. Thank you for being with us.
I'm so happy to be here to talk to you about dolphins the day before I leave for Israel. It just feels so in divine order. So before we start talking about dolphins, because we kind of started talking about dolphins, and then we talked about a lot of our joys and concerns and a lot of things that are going on, I want you to take a moment and feel into what it is like to be a dolphin. So if you can imagine with me for a moment, taking a deep dolphin breath in, consciously, because dolphins are conscious breathers. Taking a breath in and then out the top of your head, in synchronicity with your friends. So imagine you're a part of a pod, that we're a pod, and you are taking a moment to consciously breathe with your friends. It is estimated that dolphins began as amphibians, walking the earth and swimming in the rivers and seas over 50 million years ago. Dolphin brains are much larger and more advanced in many ways than humans are just beginning to comprehend. Dolphins can hear sounds 8 octaves higher than humans, and they use sonar and echolocation to produce a kind of X-ray holographic vision. These elegant and sophisticated marine mammals are our distant cousins who share many similarities with us. There are countless myths and stories about the connection between humans and dolphins found across cultures in diverse parts of the world. The Chumash tell the story of how long, long ago we were one family living together in the island of Lamu. The earth goddess beckoned us to the mainland, creating a rainbow bridge for us to walk across, and warned us, don't look down. But some of us couldn't resist and lost our balance, falling into the sea and becoming dolphins. The ones who crossed the rainbow bridge began life on land, and the ones who fell into the sea began their evolution in the seas. But our ties remained strong, even though some of us lived on the land and some of us lived on the sea. In many places there are etchings and caves and huge sculptures and remnants of the time when we interacted every day with our dolphin cousins. When I visited Ephesus, Turkey, there's this ancient sculpture from the 1st century of a goddess riding a dolphin with incredible joy. In a recent book, Dolphin Wisdom for a New World by Adina Tryon, mystical dolphins visit her in her dreams and give her visions and inspire her on her spiritual path. There is an inextricable connection between the ancient goddess lineage and the wisdom of what is called Stella Maris, the starlight of the sea, the wisdom pod of evolving dolphin elders. In the Catholic tradition, we call Mary the Stella Maris, the light of the sea. And many goddess traditions will tell you that Mary is definitely part of the mystical connection between the goddess tradition and other female goddess leaders like Kuan Yin and Durga in this tradition, this spiritual tradition of interaction between and oneness of dolphins and humans. Dolphins first, as my bio shared with you, began appearing to me in dreams when I was young, and I was always energetically inspired by these dreams. They would bring me great joy, and I would be compelled to learn more about dolphins. In the dreams, they would share with me some of the problems they were having in the sea with pollution and plastics and different kinds of things that they feared about what humans were doing in the ocean. And I vowed to help them. I wanted to be in service to these amazing mammalian, intelligent, sophisticated life forms called dolphins. My first teacher in the dolphin tradition was Sugar. Have any of you ever met Sugar? She lived at mile marker 17, and they built a lodge around her called Sugarloaf Lodge. They captured her before the Dolphin Protection Act, and they didn't understand what they had done. But it didn't take them long to realize that Sugar had gifts. And there was an incredible bond between their baby boy and Sugar, who became her trainer in his adult life. So Sugar was accessible to people, and I went down there and sat with her. And the first teaching Sugar gave me was about telepathy. I heard a message in my mind, as strong as it was an audible message. Tickle my nose with a palm frond. And she sent it several times. And I thought to myself, she's asking me to tickle her nose with a palm frond. Like, I heard it as clearly as if you had said it to me. But I knew she didn't speak. And so I took the palm frond and went to tickle her nose. And she jumped up and slapped her tail. And the young trainer came over and said, "What'd you do? She obviously liked it." I said, "Well, I think she asked me to tickle her nose with a palm frond." And he just smiled and knew a new student had been adopted by Sugar. So for many, many years, she trained me in telepathy, in dolphin whispering, and she gave me amazing advice. And she came to me in dreams, and she shared things with me. One of my favorite things was we were staying at Sugarloaf Lodge, my husband and I, and she came to me in a dream, and there was a Doberman pinscher, and he was going to get us. And, you know, this Doberman pinscher was just really awful. And so I woke up in the middle of the night, and I said to my husband, "There's a Doberman pinscher, and he's going to get us." And, you know, having lived with me long enough that he understood I had these kind of dreams, he simply said, "It's okay, we're on the second floor." the next day, I saw the Doberman Pinscher. And I said to the trainer, I said, I saw that dog in my dreams. I think Sugar's really scared of that dog. And he goes, yeah, it's my dog. And she's so jealous of my relationship with Sugar that she jumped in and bit her, you know. And so, again, you know, it was her way of confirming to me that, yes, we can communicate. Yes, you're receiving my communication in your dreams. I realize now that studying with Sugar and learning about telepathy from her helped me on my spiritual path to then be able to communicate with my teachers, who both of which hardly ever talked and who communicated in the silence. And I think that my relationship with her prepared me for my ability to care for the Buddhist monk Bhante Dharmawara the last 10 years of his life, because most of his life he spent in silence. He lived to be 111, and I knew what he wanted every time, you know, and I knew what he was thinking and what he needed, and I definitely think those gifts came from the time I spent with Sugar. The Hawaiian word for dolphin is naya, which translates to the energy of unconditional love. To me, this is their essence: love, peace, and joy. Whenever I have the privilege of being with dolphins, I feel waves of divine contentment. They soften me. I get a dolphin eye. I get a dolphin smile. My whole being becomes more melted. Once, in the state of dolphin bliss, after swimming with dolphins in the Keys, my husband and I went to have dinner at the Marriott Beachside Resort in Isla Morada on our way back home. Do you want a drink, he asked. I don't think so. I'm already high. Then we noticed the chef, and he walked over after scanning the whole restaurant and asked us if we would be his guest for dinner. He was trying out some new fish recipes and wondered if we would be his samplers. And we both burst out laughing because we knew that we were emanating something that magnetized him to us. That's the power of dolphin consciousness. To be so full of joy, to be so full of this energy of unconditional love that everyone around you is lifted up. Everyone around you is magnetized to that feeling. And you've all expressed a glimpse of it when you just see them, right? You're nodding. Because when you just see them, you feel it. If you've had the privilege of being in the water with them, with the clicks and the sounds and the way that they communicate through your body, you feel and experience the healing. In the 1980s, I was leading a transformational group of people who meditated together once a week and practiced advanced spiritual teachings. And we had seen this movie about a woman who called whales. How many of you have seen that movie or heard about it? So there's a young woman in Hawaii, and there's a movie about her. And she calls the whales, and they come, and they just beach themselves at her feet. So we saw this movie, and we decided that we wanted to practice calling dolphins. And the way she described it was that she went to the place where she and whales were one, and she spoke to them. And so we practiced, you know, as best as we could as a group of meditators who were working in harmony with each other for a whole year, to go to that place where we were one, and to ask Sugar and all the dolphins we had ever met to bring us to the place where we were one with dolphins. And then we asked them if there was a time and a place where we could be with them in the wild, and they could teach us about what it is to be a dolphin. And the answer didn't come right away. You know, we put the request out, and we just kept praying and kept meeting and kept developing our skills in other ways. And then months later, a person in our group by the name of Michael, a teacher, very humble guy, said, a day, a date, a time, and a location. Like, out of nowhere. And so we said, okay, we'll go with it. And we rented a boat and got a captain, and we went out to where we were supposed to go, and the time was 3 o'clock, and guess what happened? Dolphins surrounded our boat. Many, many dolphins surrounded our boat. And we were all in different places and all had different experiences. I experienced for the first time, which I've now experienced quite a few times, a dolphin with a baby. And that was just, for me, the ultimate experience of joy, is seeing a mother dolphin and her baby. And my friend, who was very ill, was the only one actually in the water at the time. And he was completely zapped and sonared, you know, from every location of his body, and it terrified him. But he went with it, and he was gradually made well. Over time, he completely healed his cancer. It was as if the dolphins knew what we needed, each one of us individually, and they gave it to us. Dolphins have amazing lives. As Albert Einstein observed, dolphins love to play. They play catch with their food, just for the fun of it. They create jumping games. They dance, they spin, they splash, they roll over, they tail walk, they leapfrog. They do synchronized movements together. They ride wakes of the boat, as many of you know. They surf the waves on the big boats. They create and they play chicken. You know that game? Or, you know, you go towards each other until just at the last second you move. Adolescents like to smack into each other instead of move. And they, you know, will tease each other until the last minute, you know, and then fly into midair. Jacques Cousteau witnessed dolphins in ceremony. He talked about it as one of the most significant experiences of his life, that there were thousands upon thousands in ceremonial circles on their tails, chanting that he had seen migrating from all corners of the earth to a place near Indonesia where thousands upon thousands upon thousands of them were doing a sacred ceremony. About 5 years ago, BC, before COVID, I went to Bimini, which is the closest island in the Bahamas to us in Florida, to a place called Wild Quest Adventures, to swim with a super pod of dolphins that have been interacting freely of their own accord with a group of yogis and biologists and a very humble but wise group of people who have spent the last 30 years studying, interacting with, and learning with a superpod of dolphins. I had heard about them, and it was on my bucket list for over 25 years, and I had questions. And so I took the leap, and I signed up for their course. And I went with this thought in my mind: how do you do it? How do you communicate simultaneously with each other so quickly? And how is it that you can do it in an ocean? There was a part of me that knew that they were in communication with each other, that they would, come together at certain times because they live in what's called a fission-fusion society, which is a joining, splitting society. So, for example, during the day, they rest in intimate small groups. Then they come together at night and hunt and feed, and they spread out in large groups, and then they come together in small groups, like some of you, I think online had said, to trap the fish. In the afternoon, they gather in other kinds of groups to play, and they constantly change subgroups where there doesn't appear to be any rule about who spends time with whom. They're incredibly social animals, and they prefer to live in the company of others. And group members protect each other and cooperate with each other to find food and to rehabilitate if they're hurt. And they connect with very distinct groups. So there's herds that are one species, and their members have a range that's their home range. And then there's schools of dolphins, which are lots of different herds of different species. And there are subgroups that don't always travel with herds. And then there are families, which are stable units of relatives that include many generations. And there's nursing pods, which assemble just for the birth of a baby. And these are wise elder women, moms, and other children who help the baby to be born. So, on my trip, I asked the dolphins to share with me how they communicated. And one night, I woke up and I saw the entire day that I had just experienced on my dolphin encounter in holograms all over my room. And I was amazed at what I was looking at. And I had a sense that they were showing me the way they communicate. And it was beyond anything I could comprehend. Years later, I discovered that researchers in the UK and in the United States had discovered that the clicking sounds dolphins use for echolocation actually form holographic images. With the use of cutting-edge technologies such as simoscopes and 3D print technology, the scientists believe that they can actually see what dolphins are seeing for the first time. And they've proved that the clicking sounds they use for echolocation actually form reproducible holographic pictures that suggest that they may be the foundation of their language. There's so much we don't know about other life forms. As humans, we can be so arrogant that we actually think we know what a lesser life form than us experiences. And it's been my experience through my dolphin training that, in fact, we really are just beginning to have the consciousness where we even understand a little bit about the way dolphins have evolved beyond humans on Earth. There's a poem I want to share with you that kind of gives this perspective that I have. It's called The Monkey's Disgrace by Roberta Fields. Have any of you ever heard it before? 3 monkeys sat in a coconut tree, discussing things as they're said to be. Said one to the other, now listen, you two. There's a rumor around that can't be true, that a man descended from our noble race. The very idea is a great disgrace. No monkey has ever deserted his wife, starved her babies and ruined her life. And you've never known a mother monk to leave her babies with others to bunk or pass from one to another till they scarcely know who is her mother. Here's another thing a monkey won't do. Go out in the night and get in a stew, or use a gun or a club or a knife to take some other monkey's life. Yeah, man descended, the ornery cuss, but brother, he didn't descend from us. Let's give a hand to Roberta Fields for that. I can't but help thinking about the colonizers, the people that view the Palestinian people as animals. Actually, when I heard them say, they're animals, kill them all, on nationwide television, I thought about Columbus, calling Native Americans savages because he did not understand their generosity and compassion any more than these people, these murderous people, could possibly understand the beauty, the love, and the resiliency of the Palestinian indigenous people. It's the way that humans can be so arrogant that we don't understand the brilliance of animals. But we know, maybe some of you have experienced it. I have experienced an eagle sitting beside its lifelong mate who had a broken wing, quietly, compassionately pulled it onto this little island until it took its last breath. Dolphins. If a little dolphin is caught inside a net, a fishing net, they will all try desperately to get that baby out. If they can't, an adult that knows the signature whistle and the song of the dolphin. Now, a signature whistle is a dolphin's name. It's like a thumbprint. No other dolphin has that but you. This unique individual dolphin has a way of whistling that everyone knows what dolphin that is. So an adult who knows the signature whistle and the song of that dolphin will push its way into the net and sing until they both die. That is the compassion. That is the intelligence and the love of dolphins for each other. There's been some interesting research I want to share with you before I give you some closing advice for dolphins. One of my friends that I'll be visiting in Israel and I'll be serving for some time runs a research institute on biodiversity and sustainability and introduced me to all these young graduate students who are doing all this interesting research. One of the pieces of research they're doing is on how the impact of soldiers has a negative effect on the environment just by their being there. So one of the things they discovered was if soldiers come into the habitat where large birds like storks or cranes are nesting, just their entering into the territory will cause the birds to move their nests. Think about it. The vibration alone of armed soldiers has an impact on the environment. And that's just one impact. Think about all the pollution. Think about all the sound pollution. Think about all the soil pollution. Think about all that is done in war to destroy the oceans, the land, the trees. Nothing is untouched. So in conclusion, let's pray for the dolphins. Let's pray for the seas. Let's pray for the people. And let's bless all of those who hold to the oneness of the people and the land, because they shall inherit the future. Let's hold that new beatitude in our hearts. So here's some advice from dolphins. Have a playful spirit. Be curious. Enjoy creating new games. Find others you really click with. Glide through the day with ease and take naps.